Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Prabhupada. Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jai Vishnupada Paramahamsa. Pri Vrajagachaja Stotra Satta Sri Srimad, His Divine Grace. Srila Bhai Sharanarvinda Bhakti Vedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki Skandi BT Founder Charya Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur ki Samavata Bhakti Vrinda ki Harinama Sankirtan ki Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jainitai Gaura Primanande. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga. All glories to Sri Prabhupada ki. Om Agyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Dakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Parakamalam Sri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Sabhadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalitam Sri Vishakanvitam Scha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Suti Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narotamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer our respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta praya sabadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya bhagavati tamasloke bhaktir bhavati naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within our heart becomes destroyed practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahmasamitam Utamashloka Charitam Shakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swasyayanam Mahat. This Srimad Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literary incarnation of God. It is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful, all blissful, and all perfect. Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhara, Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. This second short mantra, you have to listen carefully. It's very short. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Om Sarabhyai Namaha. Mukham karoti vasaram pangom langayate girim yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Yat kripa tamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna. Welcome everyone to the Bhagavatam class. And we are reading from the 7th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 1, entitled The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone. And today just happens to be the last verse of this chapter. And it is there, right? Okay. So everyone may kindly follow. Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha Vidvesho Daite Putre Katam Asin Mahatmani Bruhi Me Bhagavan Yena Praladasya Chutat Mata. Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha Vidvesho Dayate Putre Katam Asin Mahatmani Bruhi Me Bhagavan Yena Praladasya Chutat Mata. Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha Vidvesho Dayate Putre Katham Asin Mahatmani Bruhi Me Bhagavan Yena Praladasya Chutat Mata. Ladies? One more from the ladies' side. Sri Yudhishthira Uvacha. Maharaj Yudhishthira said, Vidveshaha, hatred, dayate, for his own beloved, putre, son, katham, how, asit, there was, Mahatmani, the great soul Prahlad, Bruhi, please tell, may unto me, Bhagavan, O exalted sage, Yena, by which Prahladasya, of Prahlad Maharaj, Achyuta, to Achyuta, at Mata, great attachment. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, O my Lord, Narada Muni, why was there such enmity between Hiranyakashipu and his beloved son, Prahlad Maharaj? How did Prahlad Maharaj become such a great devotee of Lord Krishna? Kindly explain this to me. Kindly repeat after me. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, O my Lord, Narada Muni, why was there such enmity between Hiranyakashipu and his beloved son, Prahlad Maharaj? How did Prahlad Maharaj become such a great devotee of Lord Krishna? Kindly explain this to me. Purport. All the devotees of Lord Krishna are called Achyutatmana because they follow in the footsteps of Prahlad Maharaj. Achyuta refers to the infallible Lord Vishnu, whose heart is always infallible. Because the devotees are attached to the infallible, they are called Achyutatma. Achyutatma. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 7th canto, 1st chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled The Supreme Lord is Equal to Everyone. I'll read the translation again. Maharaj Yudhishthira inquired, O my Lord, Narada Muni, why was there such enmity between Hiranyakashipu and his beloved son, Prahlad Maharaj? How did Prahlad Maharaj become such a great devotee of Lord Krishna? Kindly explain this to me. So this seventh canto is dealing with great personalities. Yudhishthira Maharaj, who is the eldest of the Pandavas, who are very, very close associates of Krishna, and he is inquiring from Narada Muni, another great personality. Bhagavatam is full of such great personalities. And this seventh canto, later on, actually, it will be the last portion, actually, chapter 11 to 15 of this seventh canto, are the continuing discussions between these two great personalities, Yudhishthira Maharaj and Narada Muni. Of course, they are discussing about another great personality, Prahlad Maharaj. So the message being conveyed here is that Lord Krishna is known, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is known as Achyuta. Actually, in India, when we go to different temples, and if the local priest is performing some particular yajna on our behalf, he will ask us, what is your gotra? And most of us who are from the Western countries, we don't have a gotra. Gotra means family lineage. And so, yeah, our reply is that we belong to the Achyuta Gotra. And we do, of course, as devotees of Lord Krishna. So this nice point is being explained here, that in the same way that Krishna, being the Supreme Personality of Godhead, when he descends in the material world, he remains fully transcendental. He is always eternally in his spiritual position as described in the Shastra of Satchitananda Vigraha. He has an eternal form full of knowledge and full of bliss. And we who are his parts and parcels, Mamai Vangsho, Jiva Loke, Jiva Bhuta Sanatana, our original nature is also Sat Chit Ananda. Our problem in the material world is that differently than Krishna, when we come in the material world, we accept a material identity, material body, which is influenced by the modes of material nature. No one is spared from this. Everyone is heavily conditioned by these modes of material nature. However, Lord Krishna advises or gives instructions in the Bhagavad Gita. I was looking for the Bhagavad Gita. Do you have it here? I see the Nectar Devotion. I see other books. Maybe I didn't look properly. Oh, that small one, huh? Jai, okay, thank you. So we can best appreciate these descriptions and instructions actually given from the Bhagavatam by having a sound understanding of the teachings of the Bhagavad Gita. The same concept or instruction Darasi Gonitaya Ki, which is being conveyed in this verse, whereby living entities who follow in the footsteps of Krishna, which means who engage in devotional service, they also become infallible. They also are able to transcend these modes of material nature. There's a chapter actually dedicated in the Bhagavad Gita, 14th chapter, the three modes of material nature, which very nicely explains this particular point. Actually, it's in the very beginning of the 14th chapter, and it goes as follows. 14:1. Param bhuya prabhakshyami jnanam jnanam uttamam yaj gyadva munaya sarve param siddhim ito gataha. Krishna begins this chapter by saying the following. He's speaking to Arjuna. Again, I shall declare to you this supreme wisdom, the best of all knowledge, knowing which all sages have attained the supreme perfection. And then he explains in the next verse, idam jnanam upasritya mama sadharmya magataha. Very important statement. By becoming fixed in this knowledge, one can attain to the transcendental nature like my own. In other words, although we are here in the material world, by cultivation of this knowledge, by cultivating transcendental knowledge, which is explaining about the nature of the Supreme Lord, which is fully transcendental, and the essence of which is bhakti or devotional service, we can also attain that same nature of Krishna. Krishna, when he descends, as also explained in the Bhagavad Gita, Janma karma chame dibyam, my birth and my karma or activities are fully dibyam or transcendental. So if we also take up such activities, we also are able to transcend these modes of material nature. Bhagavad Gita nicely describes the importance of taking up what is called prescribed duties. Very often, actually, people, they ask, well, I'm not living in the temple. I have a job. I have to work. I have to interact with so many people. So how to actually spiritualize my life so that I'm not entangled. So there's a whole very nice, the whole Vedic culture is explaining how even so-called material activities, there's a whole science that we call the science of dharma, Bhagavat dharma. Srimad Bhagavatam is especially focused on Bhagavat dharma. Dharma means has different meanings, but in essence it means what is more natural and original for all of us. We have our original nature on the spiritual transcendental platform, which is what Krishna, when he descends in the material world, he displays, he enacts. He's always situated in his what we call Nitya Lila. Nitya Lila. Nitya means eternal, Lila, pastimes. So we have, although we are here in the material world, connected with the modes of material nature, we have an opportunity, if we are fortunate to come in contact with this knowledge, we have an opportunity to actually become part of, or to enter in the Leelas or pastimes of Lord Krishna. And of course, it's a gradual process, and it entails understanding two levels of dharma, which is kind of a theme that's very important for all of us to understand. I guess it's a theme that maybe in the last quite a number of years I've been trying to focus on, especially. Generally, as devotees, we are more focused or centered on what we call devotional service, which is, of course, the essence of what we should be doing. That is our eternal dharma, that is called Sanatan Dharma. Another aspect which is very important is that Krishna instructs. Not only does he instruct, this will be brought up at the end of this chapter, actually, the last 5 chapters of this 7th canto. In this section, Yudhisthira Maharaj wants to hear about this great personality, Prahlad Maharaj, and he's asking these questions, which will be answered in the chapters to come. How is it that Prahlad Maharaj, who is the son of the greatest of all demons, Hiranyakashipu, how is it that he was a devotee? Because normally, what is it? Father like son? Normally, the son takes on the same qualities of the father, but it's not always the case. And of course, that will be revealed in the pages to come, largely due to association, because Prahlad Maharaj, as we know, within the womb of his mother, before being born, he was fortunate to get the good association of sadhus, saintly persons. He was his mother, who was being threatened actually by the demigods. The demigods wanted to actually detain her until the son was born, and they wanted to kill the son because they thought, we have enough of one Hiranyakashipu, we don't need another one. But Narada Muni actually arranged that the mother was protected, and during his stay in the ashram, as we know, every day he would be hearing, I guess, different verses from the Bhagavatam, as we also have an opportunity. And therefore, it means that by such association, especially our acharyas describe, the hearing process is the most important. Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Vishnu Smaranam means to remember Vishnu or Krishna. And the two most powerful ways by which we can do that is by Sravanam, which means hearing, and Kirtanam, chanting or speaking about. The Bhagavatam is full of Sravanam, Kirtanam. The whole rendering of the Srimad Bhagavatam, as we know, is Sravanam. Parikshit Maharaj is hearing from Shukadeva Goswami, who is speaking. So our whole, actually, the more we as living entities in the material world, the more we, as Srila Prabhupada would say, lend oral reception. The more we attentively hear what is being conveyed, then gradually we will actually become purified. And as we begin to engage in our prescribed duties. Actually, we have two levels of prescribed duties: spiritual prescribed duties and materials prescribed duties. And both are subject matter that are meant to be more and more fully understood and, of course, put into practice. And the more we do that, then the more we become also, the more we take on this quality of being unaffected by the dualities of the material world. We are especially heavily influenced by two things. I mean, more than two things, especially in Kali Yuga. But they're summarized basically. I mentioned one, by the three modes of material nature. No one is spared. And secondly, by what is called the threefold miseries of life, isn't it? No one, again, is spared by that. The whole material world is such that we are being disturbed, practically speaking, at every moment of our life. That is called the different influences by nature, caused by the demigods, by our own body as well. Adibautik is called Adibautik, Adiatmik, Adidaivik. One can actually learn to gradually transcend these influences on the body and the mind as well. If we learn nicely about these two dimensions of dharma, it's a major topic, actually. Most of us who are practicing for some time Krishna consciousness, we tend to be more at ease and more knowledgeable about what we call our spiritual dharma. Spiritual swadharma is the main theme actually for all of us as devotees, which the essence of which, of course, is practicing spiritual life. But we are less, and I think it's important for us to understand, we are generally less familiar with, less knowledgeable about what is meant to be our material swadharma. Both topics are very deep and profound in nature. And of course, throughout the Bhagavatam, just like I mentioned a few minutes ago, the last portion of this particular canto, Yudhishthira Maharaj, after hearing sufficiently, after Narada Muni answers all of his questions regarding Prahlad Maharaj, this great devotee, he will then, Yudhishthira Maharaj, he will then ask Narada Muni, can you now speak to me about what is dharma? And specifically, what is varnashrama dharma? So there's a whole discussion and a very detailed explanation that is coming on, that is part of this seventh canto. And one of the very important statements that Narada Muni will be sharing with Yudhishthira Maharaj is that those who are devotees, those who are fortunate to begin this, we could say, journey, transcendental journey of cultivating knowledge which is beyond what we can just see with our limited vision, which is beyond what we can understand with our limited material mind and intelligence, is the subject matter that Narada Muni will be taking up. And the point being that the more we hear these subject matters, and there's one particular statement that of course comes up later on by Narada Muni to Yudhishthira Maharaj, that those who are devotees, their primary, we could say, focus in life, their primary objective should be to deepen their understanding, to deepen our understanding. And that's nicely summarized in the following verse where Narada Muni speaks about dharma. Dharma mulam hi bhagavan sarva vidamayo harihi smritam cha tabidam rajan yena chatma prasidati. The word smriti actually means to remember. As devotees, we are meant to remember and not forget what is our primary goal and duty in life, regardless of where we may be living. Sometimes it's, if one is living in a temple, that's wonderful. One has, in many ways, more opportunities because one can see the Lord, one can engage in so many devotional activities. But that remembering process can also be accomplished even if one is not living in a temple. And it is an art that anyone can actually learn if one is simply following the recommended process, especially, again, as we mentioned, in the matter of hearing and chanting. There's going to be a few engagements, as mentioned earlier by Prabhupada, Prana Prabhu, and I will be focusing especially on developing this theme of dharma on these two levels of, again, the spiritual dharma, because that is connected with our eternal nature, but also material dharma because we happen to be carrying, all of us, a material nature, whether we like it or not. And we've been carrying this material nature, and each one of our natures are different, and there's a whole very elaborate explanation on this, how to make, as Prabhupada would say, the best use of a bad bargain. All of us, we have a bad bargain, means we have this material body. When we understand more, the more we understand about spiritual life, we can understand how this body is presenting all kinds of challenges, but that we can overcome by knowing these two things, by knowing what is the spiritual nature of ourselves and the spiritual world, and the activities that are ongoing there. And simultaneously, because as long as we are in the material world, especially as long as we are connected with these modes of material nature, we really need to know about the material nature. You see, as a matter of fact, Yudhishthira, not Yudhishthira, Parikshit Maharaj, in the early section of the Bhagavatam, although he is destined to leave his body, he's been cursed to die in 7 days, and one would think that he should only be asking spiritual questions, but he's also asking about things related to the material universe, cosmology and planets and whatnot. And Prabhupada explains how such great devotees as Parikshit Maharaj, they learn to appreciate the Lord through his material nature as well. So this is the tail end of this. This is the actual end of this chapter, and the next chapter is going to continue the same subject matter of Hiranyakashipu, and some of these questions being asked here by Yudhishthira Maharaj will be addressed by Narada Muni. if there's any few minutes for comments or questions. Yes. Huh?
You mentioned that we have to cultivate transcendental knowledge. Is that a question of study or practical activity, or is it a balance?
Whether it's a question of study or
practical activity?
It's a combination of both, actually. If we properly cultivate transcendental knowledge, which means especially hearing, reading, studying. We all know, especially those who were around in the early days, Prabhupada was always very much praising his devotees for distributing his books. But then one day he asked them, "Do you read my books?" So distributing books, reading them, and then somebody mentioned, well, studying books is also important. And then connecting with your question, after reading, hearing, distributing, studying, then we have to apply. And that, to the extent that we are able to apply what we've heard, what we've studied, then to that extent, it means we are understanding what's in the books. So it's very important. As a matter of fact, there's in the first canto of the Bhagavatam, it is, Shukadeva Goswami explains in a series of very important verses that when one comes to a particular level, it's that very famous verse, Evam prasanamanaso bhagavat bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Means when one comes to the mode of goodness, because we at least need to come to the mode of goodness, and the whole Vedic culture is helping us actually to come to that mode of goodness. Then we can mode of goodness means our mind is peaceful. We're not troubled by the lower modes of material nature. We're kind of like fixed. It's called nistha, level of nistha. Then we can engage nicely in bhakti, devotional activities. And then when we engage in activities of bhakti, Krishna reciprocates as Paramatma and gives us what is called transcendental knowledge, or big gyan. There's gyan and big gyan, and it is when the more we are capable of receiving this big gyan, then it translates into practical activities in our life, which includes both, I would say, the spiritual dimension of dharma as well as the material dimension of dharma. That's a whole major theme in itself. I'm hoping to discuss a bit more later on today and tomorrow. Yeah. So yeah, we have to come to the point of, we say, I'm not the body. Prabhupada kind of like was drilling that to us and continues actually, because it needs to be repeated. But our understanding of we're not the body will be shown by how we live and how we react in different situations, etc. So yeah, the practical aspect or the practical application of that knowledge is absolutely important, essential. And we have, as individually and collectively as a society, a major responsibility, because by practical application, others can see and can be inspired, isn't it? Just like Prabhupada told us, first is food. First is food, in the sense that our primary responsibility on the material level, for example, is to to produce. Vedic culture being agrarian culture, people traditionally would be producing their own food. because we've swayed away, we've gone to we've distracted from that, disconnected. Therefore, now we're stuck with food which is not good for us, as we know, and we've, because of so many deviations actually from these instructions that are there both in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we have created a situation which is, can we say, pure hell, something like that. Pure hell. Yeah. So therefore, we as devotees, we have to turn the table around. Right. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. There's all kinds of ways to more clearly and more deeply understand so many things that are given in the Bhagavatam. Yeah. Any other? Yes.
Thank you so much for such a nice session, Maharaj. I have two questions. One is, in terms of practical terms, what does one's material dharma?
In practical terms, what does
What is
material dharma? Okay. Should I give another Bhagavatam class? Actually, the essence of material swadharma is also service. But it is service as it is prescribed and ordained in the Shastra. Small example. Actually, it's a big one. Prabhupada, again, in the when Narada Muni will begin to explain to Yudhisthira Maharaj on his request more about dharma, at one point he mentions regarding what is meant to be the primary duty and responsibility of householders. Now, if I was to ask all of you, what is your understanding of what is meant to be the primary, not actually responsibility, but occupation? We speak about prescribed duties. What is meant, according to Vedic culture, Vedic understanding, what is meant to be the primary occupation of the majority, not all, but of the majority of householders? How many householders here? A few. Yeah. So interesting to know from the householders. What is in the Vedic culture the general occupation of the majority of householders? Because she's asking regarding material swadharma. So what is meant to be the material activity besides chanting Hare Krishna and doing bhakti? There is a science, there is one science called, it's one of the vidyas, Chatur Vidya. Vedic culture is based on 4 basic vidyas. You're referring to one of them, and it's you're quite close, but specifically it means you're referring to the 4th of these vidyas, which is called the science of economics. What is the Vedic science of economics? That will answer the question, actually. The Vedic science of economics is Krishi Goraksha Vanijam Vaisha Karma Swabhavajam, which means, if we accept this, I mean, it is, if we agree, then it means that actually the occupation for the majority of householders is meant to be agriculture and cow protection. They go hand in hand. That's how things were in Vrindavan. That's how things were before the Industrial Revolution and the French Revolution in Europe. And therefore, that's meant to be the more simple and natural activity. So these things can be understood when we cultivate this knowledge, what is meant to be. So material Swadharma means what is prescribed by Shastra, by the Acharyas, which will more easily facilitate our spiritual growth, our spiritual development. Yeah. Now we're living in what is called, society of Ugra Karma. No rules, no regulations, totally upside down and irrational, etc. And therefore, it's most difficult to practice spiritual life. And the problem is that majority of our devotees are caught up in that also, isn't it? And should not be. Or Prabhupada at least instructed us that, hey, there's an option here. You have to consider, you have to know what that option is, and you have to prepare yourself, etc., like that. Anyways, that's a whole other topic. I think we have to end by saying, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Hare Krishna. Thank you.